Big Ron Shaw here, the Earl of Upsets, telling you to watch my friends, Monte and the Pharaoh, on Long Island's #1 wrestling podcast show, and soon to be the world's #1 wrestling podcast show. That is going to be a big upset.
The Monte and the Pharaoh show is brought to you by...
Because wine is your second favorite four-letter word. California wine, New York attitude. Good fucking wine.
Yeah.
All right, welcome back to Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast, Monte and the Pharaoh, only seen here out of Monte's room and Pharaoh's room. And by the way, Jimmy, just quick heads up, we've got a new studio. I'll be making that announcement in the next couple of weeks. Right. But let's talk about our special guest. Well, I'm going to introduce him as Kwee Wee, right? But I want to call him Alan. How are you, Alan? Thanks for joining us on a Friday night. It really, really do appreciate it, sir.
Good, man. Appreciate it. How you guys?
It's great to have you. It's
good,
great to have you. Let me ask you something, Alan. You know, being a famous wrestler and, you know, these shoot interviews got really hot, especially with the old. I didn't want to put you part of the older crew. I'm going to call you like the second generation of shoot interviews. When do you think this is all going to be put to bed and like these will no longer happen? How close are we to that?
What, to the shoot interviews?
Yeah.
Shoot, I think they're only going to get better or worse, however you want to say it.
So you think there's still some dirt left in today's generation? Like, you know, all the shit that used to happen. I'm not sure if it happens as much today, but maybe it does, and they just got a lid on it. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I think the stuff that may be coming out later is probably stuff we really don't want to hear. Now in the younger generation.
All right, Mike,
what?
we're in business for a while.
What's that?
For a while, Mike. I was just saying to Mike, we're in business for a while, it looks like, according to Kwee Wee.
Yeah, man, I wouldn't worry about that. You're always going to have something to hear.
All right, well, listen, Alan, we're not like a regular wrestling podcast, right? You know, we talk a little wrestling, but we want to actually hear what you think about certain things. And you're here at the perfect time, man. And first of all, thank you for bailing us out on this Friday night. We've got a double shot. Thoughts on the assassination of Charlie Kirk, my friend?
Well, I tell you what, man, I'm a conservative, so I want to throw that out there. But some of the stuff's going on in the world today, whether you want to blame for Charlie Kirk's death, Israel, I can tell you all the stuff that I've been doing some research on with this whole thing. No way that guy was shot by a lone kid with a 30-06. I don't know what your guys' opinion is on that, but I'm going to stand by that with my whole heart. It's a shame that guy got killed for talking about what he believed in and never hurt a flea and never would hurt a flea and just didn't want to bow to Netanyahu and get tons of money from Netanyahu and, you know, all that kind of stuff. That's just my opinion. And, you know, if you want to believe he got shot by this kid with a 30-06, that, you know, that's your right. You can believe what you want, but if you're woke, if you say you're woke, then you don't believe a 22-year-old kid shot Charlie Kirk with a 30-06.
So let me ask. So I felt exactly the same way, right? So I'm a former military guy. I was a pretty solid shot, right? And that shot, it was very hard to get off. But I will say this. I was listening to Nash's podcast, and Kevin Nash is a former military guy too.
Click this.
What's that?
Click this.
Yes, you got it. Yep.
Yeah.
So he says, and it kind of made sense because I wasn't thinking that way. He's thinking the kid was trying to take a body shot, and he was such a bad shot. He just happened, when he shot the gun, it kind of went up and went into the neck, right? Because he was trying to hit the body, which kind of made sense because the shot in the body is a much easier shot than that shot in the neck, right? That shot in the neck is like nearly impossible to get.
Mike,
right?
wouldn't a proficient military sniper get him right in the head?
Yeah, but no 21-year-old kid that's in college, right? That was my problem with the whole thing.
In other words, I'm backing your thought process that I do believe a professional military sniper would have gotten him right between the eyes if he felt like it. Why there? Where it hit him?
Even Jimmy, even someone of that caliber would have had trouble getting that shot off. What do you think, Alan?
I get it.
Well, listen, there's a couple different ways you can look at this, and I'll give you something else if you haven't heard it.
Let's do it.
I know 100 guys that deer hunt with 30-06s, 30-30s that would make that shot all day long. So depending on, but this kid being 21, 22, whatever he was, within 200-300 yards with a 30-06 isn't beyond the, possibility. But now if this kid grew up hunting, every year deer hunting and had, knew how to shoot a 30-06 like that, he could shoot that shot and make that shot. I believe that 100% because I know, like I said, I know 100 guys that deer hunt and make that shot all day long at 200-300 yards. So
yeah, I agree with that, but I don't think that kid, I think there was a picture with him in a rifle with his mother or something.
Well, the other problem is it never happened. That kid never shot that gun and hit Charlie Kirk. So that to me is absolutely certain.
So what do you think? Is he falling into the? I'm sorry, Jim. Is he falling into the land of Lee Harvey Oswald?
Dude, it's beyond that. Listen. If you go online and look at some of these, these ballistic experts, these former Navy snipers, all this stuff, there's not one person that believes wholeheartedly that kid shot that gun and shot him in the neck. The bullet hole that I see in the front is an exit wound. That's not where it went in at. That to me, that's a big misconception. And if you look at all these videos that are online, and I've looked at 1,000 of them, and I've looked at them in slow motion, back and forth, sideways. I'm probably sure you saw this guy that was in the front with he had the aviator glasses on, brown shirt, and he does some kind of motion like this. People were saying it was his mic had a bomb in it, which is 100% within, it's pretty reasonable if Israel had anything to do with it. Here's the thing that really puzzles the crap out of me. After he gets shot, all these videos I've watched, that guy with the aviator glasses and many others, probably 4, 5, 6 others, they jump over there. They're on. You see them putting stuff in their pocket, microphones, whatever it was. I don't know because you can't really see it that good, but you can see them doing something. They're picking something up. There's people crawling all around Charlie, cleaning up evidence. Like it's just there's too much. There's no way this 22-year-old kid, this Lance kid or whatever his name was, shot him from 200-300 yards away with a 30-06 from where they're saying he shot him from. There's no damn way.
Is he just a willingly, behind the scenes sacrificial lamb? They got footage of him on the roof. They got footage of him jumping down with the rifle. But if he's not the shooter, then he's obviously part of a massive cover-up. Are we going to get an AI public execution and then he just disappears someplace? Is that where we're going with this? In your mind?
Well, here's the thing is with all the corruption in the government today, I don't trust anybody, conservative or liberal. There is so much that we don't even know about this, and we see it's right in your plain eyesight. If you go and do your research, I think you would feel the same way I do. There's no way this kid shot this guy. No way in hell. It's a shame this guy was a family man. Had 2 kids. He's no longer with us. I mean, he's with Jesus. He's in a better place than we are. But it's a shame that this ever happened. And it was funny how all of a sudden Charlie used to say all this stuff about Israel, this and that. And then he started kind of following on to, he started, going with Israel a little bit more, but he was still kind of not really on the fence. He was still saying stuff about him. And then all of a sudden all this happens and it's just awful weird to me.
But Charlie was a conservative, wasn't he?
Oh yeah,
Michael.
yeah, he's definitely conservative.
So
if I can,
that's why I'm just wondering why we're looking at Israel for this, right? Because conservatives stand by Israel, right?
I got to
Well,
say,
Netanyahu, what, offered him like $250 million for Turning Point USA, and he turned it down?
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, or I mean, it
all
might have even been more money than that, but it was a ridiculous amount of money. And Charlie turned it down. And then right after that, that happened.
I'm not
Because
sure
he
why Charlie
he
would
was
ever.
starting to speak too much, and they didn't like that.
From what I gather of Charlie Kirk, listening to him for many, many years, he was always look. He was scripture first, regardless of how you feel about wherever your faith is, no matter what your beliefs are or are not. Charlie Kirk was always about scripture first. Only until recently, and if you paid attention to all the things Charlie Kirk said about Israel over the years, it was always pro-Israel. Jesus is the king of the Jews.
Yeah,
Charlie knew exactly the importance of Israel and always backed Israel. It's what happened was in the last few weeks, Charlie became aware of a mandate about something that Netanyahu had in his mind, and that if at a certain date something didn't happen in a positive way for the process of the Gaza situation, Charlie was afraid that Netanyahu was going to start nuking, start mass, whatever. That's what he was
yeah,
afraid of. That to me is not really condemning Israel on anything. And Israel would be very, if this is true, if what you say is true, Israel would be very foolish to take down someone who was actually quite supportive of them and their existence and their right to freedom and everything else for his entire career. So to
Well,
me, I'm very puzzled about this.
well, would you both consider that we possibly had the assassination of a future president within the next 8 years?
I believe that. I think
I
he
mean,
would
I
have
agree
been
with that too.
down the
Yeah,
road.
there's a lot of possibilities. I mean, in 4 years he would have been old enough to run for president, right?
Yeah. Well, I think he's
Yeah,
32 already.
he would
So
have been down
what
the
do you
road.
have to? Yeah.
Yeah, Kwee Wee, what's your thoughts on more alarmingly, well, maybe not more alarmingly, but to me, very high level of alarming. What do you think of the reaction of people? Look, I was never a fan of Obama when he was president, but I was never rooting for the president of the United States to be shot at or killed. Charlie Kirk gets murdered, and then you have people celebrating like it's a great thing, saying the
Yeah,
most disrespectful things, invading peace vigils. Your homie dead. Your homie dead. And Jimmy Kimmel. What is this garbage? Johnny Carson knew to stay away from this sort of crap. He knew to stay
yeah.
away from this sort of crap. He said because it's dangerous. It shouldn't be a platform for your own political ideologies. Any thoughts on society's decomposition after this horrible event? And Kimmel?
Yeah, dude. I don't care what side of the fence you're on, far left, far right, in the middle, don't know, whatever. If you celebrate somebody getting shot, especially a man like Charlie Kirk, that was a genuinely good man, I believe, just from everything I've ever seen and heard him talk. If you celebrate him dying, you're a special kind of stupid. You're a heartless human being, and you've got no morals. And there was just I think it was today one lady running for senator or governor, some fat chick, I can't remember her name. She's like, oh yeah, but you're not going to get your homie back. We got ours back, or just remarks like that. I got no use for anything like that, dude. The only thing I did celebrate was Charlie was in heaven with Jesus Christ. Other than his death, that's the only good thing that came out of that for him.
Amen, man. Let me ask you this. What did you think about Kimmel getting suspended, then being brought back, and then opening that alligator tear fest? I don't know if you caught it on his Tonight Show.
Yeah, I watched it. You know what? It doesn't surprise me. It's Disney. It's ABC, bro. What do you expect from those guys? They're pedophiles. They do whatever they can to expose, ignorance. And they showed once again, that they're ignorant by letting this guy come back on TV. And then you got all these liberals, you thought Kimmel was off. We got our guy back, and you can't get your guy back. That's where what I was just talking about stemmed from. It's like, you're Disney, for God's sakes. You need to do better.
Let me ask you this, Alan. I'm a true believer, right? If you're famous, right? You're a Kimmel, you're a LeBron James, you're Kwee Wee, right?
Yeah.
You have no rights in that character, or while you're playing that, or you're that basketball player, or you're on the Tonight Show, there should be no room for your politics. There should be a bluff order on that. There's more influence out of people like you than myself with my own children, or Jimmy and himself with his own children. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I agree. You know, especially with the NBA, like LeBron, nobody wants to hear, you're a liberal and you're supporting this and this crap and this LGBT crap. Nobody cares. Go out there and play basketball. People, you sell tickets to play basketball. You're not a politician. Let that, keep that to the professional politicians. They don't go in there and try to play basketball on TV in the freaking Oval Office and stuff. Stay the hell out of it. It's none of your business.
Well, let me ask you this, and I'm not trying to get dirt. This isn't a dirt thing, but Kevin Nash, former military guy, right? But he is very outspoken, and he is on the other side of you, Pharaoh, and myself, right? He's on that other side.
I used to be really good. I used to travel with Kevin a lot in WCW.
So what are your thoughts about him spewing his stuff, being as famous as he is?
Yeah, I mean, it's his show, right? I guess he can say what he wants. That's his right. I love Kevin to death, but I don't agree with him.
Thank God he wasn't doing it during the NWO days.
That's what cracks me up about Kevin, dude. He was a total opposite, like never conformed to any rules and this and that. So maybe that's why he's on the left. But I never would have guessed back then in WCW, say in 2000, when I used to travel with him. His mother-in-law used to live across the street from me, and it's surprising to hear. And he showed himself getting his COVID jab, and everybody needs to do their part. And, he kind of did the Arnold Schwarzenegger thing, fuck your rights, this and that. But you know what? That's his right to say that. And that's why, we have a constitution. And, whether you like what he says or not, it's his right to say it.
Well said. Well said. And, it's just unfortunate some people have a larger stage than others, right? So
yeah,
that's the bigger issue, right? So,
but I still love Kevin to death, man. And, maybe he'll change his, here's the thing with me, with common sense and stuff goes a long way with me. And with all the stuff going on in the world, I don't know how you can support a lot of the stuff the liberals support, like with these ICE things. They're not just pulling up alongside of people on the road and say, "Oh, here's a Mexican, let's arrest him." They're doing the research. They got all these warrants for these people that are raping women. They're murderers. They're rapists. Every form of bad human being on the planet. That's what they're trying to get rid of. They're not trying to get rid of, Chavo Guerrero Jr. that's just trying to have a wrestling match that's never done anything wrong to anybody. But all these people are, they're just, Gavin Newsom, they're pulling up alongside these people and just arresting just random Mexicans. No, they're not. They're not.
I agree 100%. We've got so many manufacturers out there that have hired illegal immigrants to work in their factories because, as we know, some things are unaffordable, and you could run a business out of business. If they were doing what you had said or what the liberals are saying, these manufacturers would be shut down. They would just be going building to building to building, just wiping it out. It would be that easy, right? So I agree with you. Smart man. Liking your politics right now, brother. Like it.
Mike, one last political question then, if I can, before we move on. The most polarizing president in the history of this country, and you said you don't trust either side, so I ask you, does President Trump truly have the best interests of this country in mind, or are his supporters just drinking the Kool-Aid? And I am a Trump supporter when I ask this question to you, so.
Yeah, I'm definitely a Trump supporter myself, but there is a part of me that believes no politician is without corruption. Having said that, I want to believe that Trump has the United States in his best interest, and all the stuff that he's done transparently has proved that. So, but you and I, and we'll never know what happens back, behind scenes and this and that. Do I think Trump has America's best interest? Yeah, I do. Look what he's doing for the country, man. And, his first 6-7 months done more for this country than any last 10 presidents.
And let's be honest here, okay? And I'll say this from the beginning. The president Trump has a little more power than the last presidents we've seen, but presidents really don't have that kind of power. There's a whole bunch of other shit going behind it, and even Donald Trump cannot escape that, right? So
Yeah, exactly.
let's really get what's going on here.
But see,
right?
that's where the fake news media will get your wheels spinning, and they get all these liberals in an uproar because they make shit up and everybody believes it. And it's not the truth. You can't be that stupid. In my opinion, the American person can't be that stupid.
People want to believe what they want to believe. It's very hard to change anybody's mind. If you believe something and the media goes your way, you're going with it. That's just the way it is, right? I mean, this is what it is. But I will tell you, in my short time on this, long time on this earth, as yours, Alan, and Pharaoh's, I don't think this country's ever been in such an uproar as it is now. And I'm even talking about the 50s with the racial problems and everything else. This is the worst it's ever been.
Mike, I told you, this is the 60s with bad music.
Yeah, it is.
You got the bad music part right.
Oh, yeah. It's the same uproar. It's the same upheaval. I mean, look, people are already putting Charlie Kirk in the same sentence as JFK and Martin Luther King. Do the math.
Yeah.
It's pretty obvious what happened here socially. It's insane. But also, just one last thought on Trump. Look, the guy's been shot. The guy's been shot at multiple times. He's a self-made millionaire. He doesn't need to be doing any of this, and that's why I do trust him. Because at this point, he doesn't need to do any of this. He didn't have to take on.
Well, he's not even taking a paycheck, right? He sends his money to charities and other organizations.
Yeah, the first one to ever do that too. While we're at it, So
yeah, but nobody will ever talk about that.
No, of course not, because that's not part of the agenda. Let's shift gears. Let's go over to your thoughts on Buff Bagwell. Back in the final days of WCW, and Buff unfortunately recently had an amputation. Your thoughts on Buff the Stuff?
I'll tell you what, Buff and I have had our disagreements in the past. We had a viral online video where him and I almost went to blows. But I love Marcus to death, man. And it sucks that he lost his leg. I don't want to ever see that happen to anybody. But he's doing it the last few times. I haven't seen him since he lost his leg because I was living in Atlanta and I saw him every so often. But I moved back up to Ohio for family issues. And that's when he got his leg amputated. And I haven't even reached out to him yet, which I need to. I was kind of giving him a little bit of time and space. But he's in a better place mentally from what I've seen over the last year and a half, 2 years. And he seems like he's changed a lot, and he seems like he's going towards more of the direction of, believing in Christ and having that part of his life, which is awesome. And I'm sad for him that he lost his leg, man. That it sucks.
Let me ask you this. I don't know you personally, but we all know the problems that Bagwell has had, right? The on and offs with the alcohol, pills, drugs. Were you able to stay away from that, or did you have your time in the dirt and got out?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I stayed away from that. In 2003, I got a pretty significant facial injury from Sonny Siaki. Just to list a little bit of my injuries, my right eyeball popped out of my head. I had a skull fracture, broke an orbital socket, broke both my eardrums, my jaw, pouring blood out of my ears. Luckily, I inherited from both my parents. My mom and dad were both tough, a high pain tolerance, which really helped in the wrestling business. So thank Jesus, I never got addicted to drugs, never really took that many. And by the grace of God, I never got, and as far as the whole wrestling lifestyle goes, I was just telling Eric and Bull Buchanan tonight when we went to dinner that but I wasn't really made for this wrestling business because I'm not like the rest of the guys. I'm not easily influenced. I never cheated on my wife on the road, which I'm proud to say that. And I've got plenty of guys that can back that up. And, it's just the lifestyle was not for me, but I loved wrestling. And that was why I was in the business. But thank God I never got any addiction to pills or alcohol or anything like that.
Even with the injuries that you sustained from Sonny?
So I got a prescription for 300 Oxycontins, 20 milligrams each. And I only took maybe 2 of them.
Wow.
So, yeah,
Can you explain what happened? What happened in that match that went so awry?
So me and Mike Sanders, natural born thriller Mike Sanders, we were wrestling Elix Skipper and Sonny Siaki for a company called Valhalla Pro Wrestling in Helsinki, Finland. And this was 2003, like I said, right after WCW. And I believe I'd already got released from WWE by this point. And we were having a tag team match. Sonny, now I came up into business with all four of us that were in the ring, off the three guys that were in the ring. So Sonny said he wanted to slam me by the corner and do a split leg moonsault. He said he'd been doing on TNA, which, I mean, I come up into business with Sonny. Why? I mean, people were like, why would you let him do that? And I'm like, we came up into business. He's done a million wrestling moves on me. If he says he can do a split leg moonsault, why would I question that? If he says he can do it, I believe him. I've wrestled him 1,000 times. So, and it wasn't that he couldn't do it. He just landed wrong. There was no malicious intent there. It's just the wrestling move gone wrong. And Sonny's not a little guy, man. He's, at the time he was probably close to 250 pounds. He did the split leg moonsault. His knee came around, caught me in the face. It was like hockey. It was face off, man. Like I had injuries. I looked like Quasimodo, bro.
In Finland.
And I was in a hospital, had several surgeries in Finland. I was over there for at least 3 weeks in the hospital before I could even come back to the States. And I had several surgeries since then. But me and Sonny Siaki, we didn't talk for a while, and not because of that. We just he was busy. I was busy doing stuff. And finally one night I was sitting around in my townhouse in Atlanta, and I called him up. It was a Sunday night, I remember, because I used to cheat like crazy, and I was eating a half gallon of Rocky Road ice cream. And I just got a itch to call Sonny and tell him that I loved him. And it was probably Jesus pushing me towards that direction. So I called him up and I said, hey, Sonny, I just want you to know I don't hate you. There's no bad blood. I love you like a brother, man. And I said, I just want to say that I forgive you if you don't think that I do. And he was like, man, I love you too. And he's like, are you going to die? What's going on? And
Wow.
I said,
wow.
no, I'm not going to die. But I said, I just had to call you up and hash that out. And Sonny and I still talk to this day, and we're good buddies. And, it was just one of them things. It just happened. And I didn't blame him 1 second for it.
You got a great
Did
outlook
you
on
always
life.
have this? Did you always have this faith? Because you've mentioned Jesus multiple times.
Yeah, I did. It just wasn't, I didn't talk about it as much, not because I was embarrassed about it. It's just, I don't know. I really don't know why I didn't talk about it a lot. But over the last several years after I got divorced and went through a lot, I've lost a lot of family members with cancer. I got a niece right now. They give her a year to live. She's only 38. And, I got a necklace on right here. It's Philippians 4:13. You guys know what that saying is?
What is it? Quote it.
And I got a bracelet, Psalms 27:1. It's I can do anything through Christ that strengthens me. Philippians 4:13. And I try to live like that every day. I try to be nice to people, try to treat people the way you should be treated, try to help people out when I can. And I've always been like that. It's just the way I was raised.
Let me ask you about the power plant. We had Chuck Palumbo on about a year ago, and he told some crazy
Chuck,
stories
yeah.
about the power plant. So how did you get involved in the power plant, and what is it as jacked up as Chuck said, that between Orndorff and I think, the Assassin, were like just taking everybody's money and hoping to run them out of there?
Yeah, it was probably exactly like Chuck said. It may even have been worse. So the reason I got in the power plant is just like everybody else, because I wanted to get into professional wrestling so bad that I'm from a small town in Ohio, Alliance, Ohio. Didn't know what direction to take, didn't know how to get into business. So, me and my ex-wife, fiance at the time, of course, we watched every Nitro and switched back and forth to Monday Night Wars. And, you see the commercial for the WCW power plant where the big boys play and, or train. So, I called them up, set up the 3-day tryout, which was the most brutal 3 days that anybody could go through. Yeah, it's all the things that you saw like on AEW's True Pro or the History of Pro Wrestling, all that, the nightmares you see on TV, amplify that 10 times. That's how the power plant was, the 3-day tryout.
So it was as brutal as we've heard. How much of an impact did it have on your career that brief time there? As far as your, how
Dude,
much did it carry over?
it was amazing. It was what I was used to growing up, being in a blue collar family, working hard for everything that I had. Uh, the like I said, 3 days after the 3 days, I couldn't even walk. I could barely get on an airplane. My legs were cramping up. I seen grown men shit their pants in there. I seen guys go through the walls. Guys puking every 5 seconds. Like, dude, you do 1,500 squats a day there, easy. In between all the other stuff you do. And having been the blue collar hard worker that I was, I might not have made it if it hadn't been for the way I was raised by my parents. But it was something that I'm glad I went through, because there's not very many guys that made it through that power plant. And to make it on TV from a small guy, knowing nobody in the business, and getting to where I got in the business, I can give myself a Barry Horowitz pat on the back. I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but I earned it. Trust me, I earned it.
Who was
I
in your
always won- I
class?
always
Who was in your
wondered- I
class,
always-
Alan?
I always wondered why he was put in the cruiserweight division. You keep referring to yourself as small, but when I looked at you on television, I thought you were pretty damn jacked. So I was always confused.
Yeah, I equate
cruiserweight.
myself to something like maybe I was bigger than Ben Wall and Guerrero.
You were jacked.
So,
You were
and I
jacked.
prided myself on that. And anybody that knew me in the wrestling business knew that I took my body serious, my diet and everything. And I was always in the locker room one of the better shaped guys, which I take a lot of pride in that. And those aren't my words; those are my peers, and people will always tell me that. Which that's what I strive to do. But answering your question with the my class in the power plant, so I hope I don't forget anybody. There was an incredible group of guys down this power plant at this time. I'm going to say Chuck Palumbo, because don't tell the rest of the guys in the power plant, but Chuck's one of my favorite guys in the world, especially in the wrestling business. Chuck Palumbo, you had Mike Sanders, which is still a good buddy of mine. You had Elix Skipper, an incredible talent. You had, Kid Romeo, which is a lot of people kind of forget about Kid Romeo, but he was a great, talent. Sonny Siaki, Rick Cornell, which was one of the most underrated guys in the power plant, body wise and ability wise. He just wasn't given for whatever reason. He was in the Natch Born Thrillers, but he just wasn't given that, he just kind of, I'm not really sure how to put it. He made it through the tryout. Now, here's one thing I can say about Rick Cornell, if nobody knows this. He actually failed the first 3-day tryout and actually came back and did it again. That's how much this kid wanted to be in the business. So you don't get enough credit for that. Because let me tell you something. If you don't make the first 3 days, there's nobody that goes back for another 3 days of that crap. Trust me. And Rick was Rick's the only guy that I know that done that. So
Probably what got him in.
Alan Palumbo tells a story that he kind of got through the power plant because he would fix Orndorff's car.
Yes.
And so Orndorff favorite was
Orndorff had an old Toyota Land Cruiser, and Chuck would always be at his house on the weekends fixing his Toyota. But that's a true story. I guarantee that's a true story.
How about Jody Hamilton? How did Jody Hamilton treat you?
Okay, so let me tell you something. I mean, God rest his soul. I love Jody to death. His son Nick Patrick, great guy. But Jody definitely had an ulterior motive in the power plant. Now, we would literally build rings there all the time, if not one a week. And out of all these rings, and they were running Deep South. Flash forward to whatever year that was, where Deep South was in Georgia, in McDonough, Georgia, where Jody lived. They were using all his facilities, using his rings, all his WCW rings. He had a whole garage full of these rings, bro. And now Nick's probably got them, because Nick's still running the Deep South territory, in his dad's name, in honor.
Wow.
So who knows? And, somebody, I was talking to a legitimate source. I don't really want to mention the name, but it was a WCW office, said that whole ring, all that stuff disappeared. The ring, the truck that they transported in, all disappeared. And from what I heard, Jody had all that at his house.
I guess Nick must have sold it all, huh?
Well, I mean, I'm not saying that to like tattletale be bad. I'm just telling a story, dude. That's just what I hear.
I listen. I hear you. It's all good. So you mentioned Benoit. What kind of relationship did you have with Benoit, and were you shocked when you heard the tragedy that happened with him?
Yeah, so you know what? I had a pretty good relationship with Benoit, which a lot of guys I don't know did because he pretty much kept to himself. But the thing that helped me was my dad came to a lot of the shows, and for some reason, my dad would sit there and talk to Benoit for hours. They would sit there and drink coffee. They had that in common. And they would sit there and talk for hours and hours, and everybody'd be like, I cannot believe Benoit's just sitting there talking to your dad. So in turn, it was my father. So, Benoit took a liking to me. Never got to work him, but I actually shot a commercial with Benoit and Guerrero, bless you. And, guys, I think Perry Saturn was in that commercial we did and stuff. So I got to work with him in a commercial, which we actually did some moves and stuff. But yeah, Benoit was always a good dude to me. And then when he died, I remember I had a supplement store in Atlanta, Georgia, Marietta, Georgia. Brad Armstrong was actually working for me. He worked the front desk for me and helped sell supplements in my store. And so Brad comes into work. He called me. He goes, dude, you got to listen to his voicemail. And it's Benoit on his voicemail that the night after he, I think it was it a Sunday? Maybe it was a Monday. So Brad comes in and has me listen to his voicemail, and it sounded weird. And Benoit was on there saying, hey, I need you to go to the back gate and check my dogs for me. And Brad's like, I never went over there and fed his dogs. I don't know what he's talking about. So, and then all this stuff came out, and then me and Brad sitting there talking, going, dude, that's why he wanted you to check his dogs, dude. Like, he was planning on killing himself. So Brad's like, dude, this whole thing is so screwed up. But that's what I remember about that. I remember listening to the voicemail that Brad let me listen to from Benoit that night.
How did his murdering the family affect you? What were your thoughts?
You know what? From what a lot of people would always talk about Benoit, saying he had a dark side, this and that. I never saw it, but also it didn't surprise me as much knowing that I heard a lot of this stuff beforehand. You want me to give you my take? Me and Brad talked about.
Absolutely.
So here's what I believe happened. I mean, I'm just saying this because this is what me and Brad came up with. Brad Armstrong, rest his soul. So me and Brad believe, from all the stuff that Brad told me and some other people I had heard this from, that Benoit and his wife had kind of a sex life that, maybe some choking and, some stuff like that going on. So I believe after all the stuff that I heard that maybe him and his wife might have been having some rough sex and he accidentally killed her. And having done that, I think it drove him nuts that he didn't know what he was going to do and he was afraid to turn himself in for whatever reason. Because, I mean, think about it. You accidentally kill somebody, who knows what they would do until you're in that situation. I'm hoping that was what happened. I'm not condoning him killing his kid and then, taking his own life, but I honestly believe that he accidentally killed his wife. I don't think that was intentional.
Wow. It's the first take I heard on that.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me ask you about Brad Armstrong. That's a guy that never, in my opinion, being a wrestling fan, never gets enough credit. What was Brad Armstrong like? What did you think about him as a wrestler? And then I have to ask you, because it's always bothered me. When he passed, it just happened. No one really knew. All of a sudden you find out he passed. What took his life? What happened?
Okay, so me and Brad were really close. I would go with him all the time, pick his daughter up from school. I remember his daughter, when my dad passed away, she gave me a little bear and a gift card. So Brad and his daughter meant a lot to me. But so Brad, let me first tell you how Brad was. Whenever you saw Brad, dude, he treated everybody the same. He was one of the most genuine, nice guys in the world. Same with Bullet, the whole family. All his brothers, Stevie, Scott, Brian, they're all the same way, bro. Great family. But Brad was one of those guys, when you walked up to him, you saw him, he would always hit his chest and lock up with you. Every time I see him, he locked up with me. He'd always be like, and then just lock up with you. And he was just a genuinely nice guy, dude. He always wanted to try to help people. So the night he passed away, he, like I said, he was working at my supplement store. But after I'd already went out of business in my supplement store, I still kept in contact with him. But the guy that I used to own the supplement store with called me and said, "Hey, Brad passed away. He was sleeping downstairs in a spare bedroom, and he OD'd. He was real big on the gimmicks. He liked taking his somas and his pain pills, and he liked drinking. And unfortunately, it was like that every night, and it kept getting worse. And it got to the point where it actually killed him.
Way too young. Another one.
Yeah,
Way too young.
great cat. And dude, let me tell you something. He was one of the most underrated. Now I know he worked with a lot of good guys, and he got a lot of TV time and this and that. But he was by far the most underrated, best talent in the wrestling business that never was on a top tier.
Yeah, he could work. He was a great in-ring storyteller. He could wrestle. That guy could
Oh,
wrestle.
he was great.
How do you digest all these deaths in this business? If I can just ask, while we're on the subject of a way too early demise, you've probably got handfuls and handfuls of folks that you probably called at least your work friends over the years that you've watched pass away way before their time. How do you digest?
Yeah, I tell you, Brad hit me strong. Brad hit me hard, but I tell you, the hardest one to hit me was Jerry Toot the Wall. He was with Berlin when he first came out. And I worked with Jerry over in All Japan in WCW, but me and Jerry were great buddies. Me, him, Rick Cornell, Dale Torberg, which was the Demon. We all had like a special bond together. And Jerry used to come over to my house all the time and hang out. And I remember when I first got my Doberman, he was over there holding it and taking pictures with it. And gentle giant, man, awesome dude. Miss that guy to death, man. He's the one that hit me the hardest out of all the wrestlers that I've been around over the years. I mean, they all suck, but when you're, when you got a really good friend in the business, which doesn't happen a lot, and he ends up passing away, and the way he did it really hurt me the hardest.
All right, let's backtrack. How you get to WCW with the power plant? You get out of there, you get to WCW, you get your break in the big time, and they give you the name Kwee Wee. Were you cool with that in the beginning, or did you think to yourself, "What's a Kwee Wee?" Or was it your idea, or how did you receive the name?
Okay, so Vince, well, the first time I was walking, me and Mike Sanders was walking through an airport in West Virginia. So Terry Taylor and Vince Russo sitting at the gate. So we walk up to the gate, and I had my hair spiked up, and that's how I was wearing it for real. And so I'm walking through the airport like this, and they see me, and they're like, "You actually wear your hair like that in the airport?" And this is when I was just doing Saturday night stuff. I was just Alan Funk doing Saturday nights. And
right.
I said, "Yeah, I always wear my hair like that." And so they were like, "You know what?" Vince told me, he goes, "You know what? I think I might have something for you. I need you to go to go buy a VHS of this character, the Mango, that was on Saturday Night Live, which is Chris Kattan. You remember the Mango character?"
I do.
So
I went. I used to watch.
So then he told me to go buy that videotape and then come talk to him Monday at Nitro. So I go to the mall and I buy this VHS and watch this video. This character, Chris Kattan, was playing the Mango. And then I go to Vince Monday night and he's like, "Did you watch the video?" I was like, "Yeah." And he goes, I got a gimmick that I want you to do. We're going to call you Kiwi. And it was Kiwi. So we started doing the gimmick, and it started off as Kiwi. Well, Saturday Night Live was going to sue him because there was a character that David Spade did, which was Mango's brother or Mango's cousin or something. And Saturday Night Live threatened to sue WCW, so they just changed the name from Kiwi to Kwee Wee, which I wasn't very fond of. But, when you're a young kid coming up in the business and you're starting from the bottom of the barrel, you're willing to do whatever you got to do. And you're right, you'll take it. Yeah. I think I took it and ran with it as good as I could, as much as they let me do with it. I could have done a lot more that they wouldn't let me do with it. They give me this character and they set me up for failure. They said, if you get any gay chance or faggot chance or anything like this, you're off air. You're done. And I'm like, well, aren't you kind of just setting me up for?
Yeah, exactly. My God, you have
reaction.
no. Wait a minute, I got to ask you. Alan, who said that to you? Who said
I
that to
get
you?
it.
That was Vince that said that.
Russo.
So Vince sets you up with the character, and he goes, "By the way, if you get any
Yeah.
gay chance, you're done."
Yep.
I
Him
got
and like I want to say maybe Bill Banks maybe too said that. Like a couple of the guys were standing there, and I'm thinking, dude. But the good news is they always had pretty decent, good looking chicks come out with me.
right.
So I think that helped with the chance and not getting the gay chance or whatever you want to call them. I think that definitely helped me out. But I think my work helped it out too.
Listen, dude. I gotta give you credit too, married man. But you had some hot chicks with you. I mean, there
Dude,
had
you
to be
ain't lying.
loads of opportunities, man. Loads.
Yeah,
of
man. I had
opportunities.
Kathy Dingman, which was BB in WWE.
Oh boy.
Charmel, of course. I don't know if you remember the one of the first ones they give me. I think it was actually the second one because I had Kathy Dingman, which was BB, the first one. So Mark Madden brings a stripper from Pittsburgh one night to the TV. Says, "Hey, well, I think she ought to come out with Alan." So I come out with this freaking stripper, huge brat, just nothing like I'm normally around, and I pick her up in my arms, and you can watch this. The whole time down the ramp into the ring, we're freaking making out. Like, and my ex-wife wanted to divorce me. She was ready to kill me after that night.
You're like, honey,
gonna
that's
ask how that
it's part of
turned
the
out at home.
gimmick. It's part of the
Wait.
gimmick.
Well, I mean, it was part of the gimmick, but I didn't blame her. But
Listen, let me ask you this: is Vince Russo, was he a genius in the industry, or was he just a guy that caught on to Jerry Springer and ran with it?
well, I mean, there's a lot of opinions about Vince, but I can honestly say I don't have a bad thing to say about him. He was just trying to do his job. The thing about Vince was he wasn't afraid to try stuff. Whether it failed or didn't fail is, to me, is irrelevant. When you're in the entertainment business, you're trying to, throw crap against the wall and see what's fixed.
Wait a minute. Respectfully, Alan, if you got a guaranteed contract, it doesn't matter how you perform. It's much easier to try things, right?
I understand that part of it
people's
too.
money. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, which he ended up going home and getting paid.
Yeah, exactly. Let me ask you
did
this:
you-
Bischoff, McMahon, Russo, Cornette. Who's the most? Who has the legitimate mind for wrestling, and who doesn't?
No, by far Vince. Or Vince McMahon, not Vince Russo. I mean, look what he built. I mean, you can't deny it.
How about Bischoff and Russo?
I would say Bischoff. Only the fact that he when he was there and the NWO came out and this and that, and you can't deny that either.
Alan, did you
And
ask
I
yourself?
actually like Bischoff's, and he's a pretty nice guy too. Always treated me very nice. Don't have a bad word to say about him either.
Did you? I'm playing devil's advocate, but did you ask yourself when Vince Russo tells you with a straight face, and I'm not asking you to throw anybody under the bus, but did you at least ask yourself when Vince Russo tells you with a straight face that he doesn't want you to get any fag chance or anything? Honestly, I think that's the kind of heat the character would be looking for, first of all.
Yeah.
Second of all, when he tells you this, do you realize at the time, or do you think to yourself, this is the guy that sent Ed Ferrara out there to make fun of JR's medical, impairments and put Buff Bagwell's mother on a forklift? Did you think to yourself, isn't this the kettle calling the pot black, or a little bit to something, at least to yourself? Like, what the hell? Why are you capping my gimmick when you just said it? He's not afraid to try stuff. Why did he cap your gimmick, but he's doing these horrible things with other gimmicks? Any thoughts?
Yeah, no, I did. Absolutely. I thought the same things myself. Unfortunately, the position I was in, I didn't have a voice. I really didn't. Right. And, you could say, well, you should have spoken up for yourself and tried to listen. I was just trying to keep a job. Yeah. Guys were going in and out the door all the time. You had all this good talent coming up. I believed enough in my abilities as a worker that I would, the cream rises. I always legitimately thought that it was all hard work in the wrestling business, but it's not. Not saying that doesn't help you, but I really was relying on my wrestling ability and what I knew I could contribute to the show that would help me get over that obstacle.
Who killed WCW?
I mean, pretty much everybody says Vince, don't they, Russo?
I want to know what you think. Who killed WCW?
Well, okay, so I can tell you this from being backstage. I don't know if you remember when Bischoff started taking over the company. So Bischoff comes in. Now all of a sudden he's the boss. That was right after Vince left. Russo, I believe. I'm trying to remember all this.
Yeah,
When
no, you're right.
they
You're right.
returned
You're
them,
right.
at one point they tried to have them together when they
Yeah.
returned Bischoff back, and they
Yeah,
had them
because
together for
we
a
were
brief
R&B
period.
security, the guys from the power play. Remember, we used to wear the black with the
Yep.
red
Yeah, I
R&B
do.
security.
Right.
So
Yes,
me and
sir.
Mike Sanders and, Jindrak. Well, Jindrak's another one I forgot to mention.
Mm-hmm.
But so Bischoff comes in. And I'm in the locker room. I remember I'm sitting there talking to Tank Abbott. I'm talking to Jim Duggan and a few of the other guys. Jerry Toot, the wall was there. So Janie Ingles knocking on the door out there, something like yelling and stuff. And might have been Mike Awesome walked in and said, "Hey, Janie Ingles out there. She wants to talk to you." And I said, "Why in the hell with Janie Ingle, which was one of the lawyers for WCW?" And she had a lot to do with the contracts and stuff like that. So I said, "I don't know, man." I start walking out there and I'm thinking to myself, this is either going to be really good or really bad. Because usually when you talk to her, you might be getting fired. And especially in the position I'm in, I'm nobody. I'm just trying to make a name for myself. So I'm a little nervous walking out to the hall. And she goes, "Hey, Alan, she goes, hey, I'm going to walk you over here to Eric's office. He wants to talk to you." I'm thinking, holy shit, like, again, it's either going to be really good or really bad. So I walk into Eric's office and he's like, "Hey, have a seat." I sit down. I start talking to Eric. He's telling me he's going to give me a big push. He loves me. So I'm excited as hell, dude. Like, I'm like, hell yeah, finally, this is all what I've been working for. And he said, "I need you to do me a favor tonight." We were in Indianapolis. He says, I need you to do a match with Rick Steiner, and I need you to put him over and make him look like $1 million. Because he started losing his luster a little bit and people weren't taking him serious. So him and I had a match, and he beat the living piss out of me. Loved it, though. He loved it. Go backstage. Bischoff loved it. He said, "That's exactly what I wanted. You did exactly what I asked of you. Good things are in the making for you." So I'm excited. I'm like, good. I did what he wanted. Thank God. Rick was happy with it. Rick, really, shook my hand and gave me a hug backstage and said that was exactly what they were looking for. They were glad to use me for that spot, which, I was glad I was used for that spot. And then every week at the show on Nitros, Jane Ingle would come and get me, take me to Eric's office. This happened for about 3-4 weeks in a row. He's saying, "Hey, I'm going to give you more money. You're going to be one of my top guys, blah, blah, blah." And everything that he was saying was happening. So I didn't have any reason to doubt what he was telling me. And I definitely didn't know WCW was about to go under within that, couple of weeks. So, yeah, but he took over. I started getting more spots. I was, you'd see more signs in the crowd. I was getting a bigger push. Me and Elix Skipper did a semi-main event on Nitro in Canada. And things were starting to fall in place. So then, I thought everything was good. So then we're headed to, which would be the last pay-per-view, Greed in Jacksonville, Florida. Me and Ross Foreman, he was an office guy. We used to go to a lot of the baseball games, which we knew a lot of Major League Baseball players. So we went down to Florida for probably 5-6 days and watched some baseball games with Haku and, hung out with some baseball players. So we're driving to Jacksonville for the pay-per-view that Sunday. And I wasn't booked on the show, but I was booked on the Nitro. So as we're driving to the show, we're almost to Jacksonville. Kevin Nash calls and says, "Hey, man, Vince just bought WCW." And when he said Vince, I'm thinking Vince Russo. Like, what? I thought Bischoff was running.
Where'd that guy get his money from? Blockbuster?
Yeah, but he goes, "No, Vince McMahon." And I said, "Are you kidding me?" He said, "Nope, Vince McMahon just bought WCW." And he says, "Do not tell anybody." And nobody knew about this, not one person. And I knew nobody knew this because so we go to the pay-per-view that Sunday. Nobody's talking about this. No one knew anything about it. It was as business as usual in WCW. Nothing changed. And me and Ross even looked at each other at one point and said, "Nobody knows." And I said, "Do not, make sure you don't tell anybody." Because, I'm a man of my word. I'm not going to say nothing to anybody. And Kevin, told me not to tell anybody. He trusted me enough.
Alan, I just have to ask you this. I don't mean to interrupt, but it's like, here you are. You're finally getting a push. I imagine you're making a good amount of money under that umbrella. And all of a sudden, Nash calls you, and it might be the worst news of your life, right? Because it's like,
it could be the best and the worst.
Right. But, again, odds are, right? WWE at that point still had the bigger guys, and I thought you were a small guy, but you know what I'm talking about, right? So
yeah. Well, here's my thinking when he told me that. I said, I asked him this question too, as you asked that question. I asked him, I said, what do you think that's going to do for me, Kevin? Realistically, because Kevin was on a different level than me. That's facts. And I trusted what he was telling me because he was always giving me advice, and I traveled with him, and I trusted what he would have to tell me. And he said, well, as far as I know, they're going to pick up your contract. And he says, other than that, I really don't know what's going to happen. And, I appreciated the honesty, and I was happy that he told me they picked up my deal, which I didn't know for sure yet. So, again, I'm going to fall back on my faith and my belief in myself. I wasn't worried at all. Like, well, you know what? I said, I'm a hell of a worker. They can't get rid of me. I look good. I'm contributing to the show. There's no way in hell they'll get rid of me. And I don't think I was being cocky, and that was just for me. I was trying to, hype myself up and tell myself that, you got great ability. You're not going anywhere. Just calm down. And that's what I told myself. And then, so like I said, that Sunday to pay-per-view, I actually got booked on the pay-per-view once I was there, and I wrestled Jason Jett, which was the opening match, which was a 15-minute friggin', if you ask me, it was the best match on the card. I don't know if you guys remember that match at all.
I'd have to look back, but yeah.
Yeah, go watch that match, me and Jason Jett for the opener, that last pay-per-view, that Greed pay-per-view. I'm a little biased, but we tore the house down, bro. And I think that was a match Steiner wrestled DDP, maybe. What's that?
Hey, refresh me. When does Shane walk in at Panama City Beach for the final Nitro?
Okay.
Was it the next night after the pay-per-view?
Yeah, it was the next night, but I was going to get to that, yeah. So, like I said, though, Sunday, not one person said nothing about anything. No one knew. So me and Ross then we're like, shit, maybe they did buy, because nobody said anything. So we're driving to the arena for Nitro, me and Ross Foreman. And he's really good friends with Kevin. Him and Kevin are like best friends. So we pull into the parking lot, boom, there's all the WWE trucks. And we're like, holy crap, he did buy them. So then I started getting I'm like, boy, I wonder how this is going to be. Guys walking in here to enemy territory. I didn't know how it was going to be. So we walked in. The vibe seemed kind of normal, but a little off. Guys were friendly. Tom, Pritchard, just some of the referees. Stephanie McMahon was there. Shane McMahon. Very nice, always nice to me. So I talked to Shane and Stephanie, shook their hand, had a conversation with them briefly. Everything seemed fine, but because nobody knew what was going on yet.
Real quick though, what was Luger and Jarrett like? We're like, oh, I'm fucked. I'm out of here. I'm done.
Yeah, because I was friends with Jarrett more than I was Luger at the time. But yeah, a lot of those guys were, I do remember hearing a few guys, like some of the kind of guys that rocked the boat a little bit, saying
Scott Steiner wasn't probably too happy, I'm assuming, Scott Steiner.
Well, you know what? Scotty's one of those guys where he happy, not happy, he's the same. He don't give a crap. He really don't. He'll say whatever he wants. So yeah, Scotty was just Scotty, same Scotty. So they said, we're going to have a meeting. So we all got together, a few hours later after everybody got there. They assured us that everything was going to stay the same, blah, 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 blowing smoke up your butt. It was just one of those meetings telling you everything you wanted to hear, nothing that was true. But they did pick us, a lot of the guys up from the power plant stuff. Out of that, I did get to work with a lot of good guys on house shows. And we went to the HWA, which Les Thatcher was running. And we were down there with they brought all the Memphis guys down there, like Umaga, Eki and his brother, the Island Boys, which were 3-minute warning or whatever they started wrestling. Steve Bradley, Lance Cade, a lot of good talent from Memphis was there. And then I got to work with, Steve Blackman, Eddie Guerrero, Val Venus, a lot of these guys that they brought down from WWE, Mark Henry, guys like that.
What went down that you didn't wind up working for WWE ultimately? Like, how could you paint the picture on that?
Yeah, so they said they were coming down to Leicester School one day. And we didn't know anything was going on. We didn't know they were going to fire all of us. But so Johnny Ace came down, Ricky Santana, and a few other WWE office people that I really didn't know. They sit us down in a room one by one. Guys were walking out. I was one of the last ones to go in the office. So I remember Kid Romeo came down, and Helix Skipper. And this was like 2 weeks before Christmas, bro. Like, they didn't give a crap. They're all coming out looking. They're like, dude, I just got fired. So I'm like, are you serious? And then again, my mentality with the way I work and, my work ethic, my body and stuff, I really didn't think I was going to get fired. But they end up firing mostly everybody that came from the power plant that was on TV with WCW. For whatever reason, and they kept all the Memphis guys. And whether they were just trying to do that, just get rid of the WCW guys and keep all their guys, I'll never know. Nobody would ever know. But that's per opinion based. I believe that was the case. I believe they had us come down there and work with these guys, and we used to go down to Louisville on Sundays and work with John Cena and Randy Orton and Batista and, the Basham brothers and Rico and a lot of these guys. We did their TVs on Sundays. I believe the sole purpose of all of us WCW guys that were on TV from the power plant come down there and help these guys get ready for TV and then get rid of us, which is exactly what happened.
Wow. All right, we're almost out of time. I want to thank you for really taking your Friday night. Fantastic interview. Thank you for being so honest. One ended up on a sad note. If you could share with your thoughts of the passing of the iconic, immortal Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, dude. He's one of the reasons I got into business. And if I could tell you one real quick story about Hulk Hogan and myself.
Absolutely.
So when I was a senior in high school, like I said, he's the reason I got into business. Like I had you couldn't see a speck of paint on my walls when I was a kid. There were so many Hulk Hogan pictures and posters. So quick story. When I was a senior in high school, Richfield Coliseum, which is now I think tore down. It used to be a jail or something afterwards. They did the Survivor Series there. Second annual Survivor Series. I actually caught his shirt that he ripped off. Had it up until the day I met him. When I started working with him in WCW, he actually autographed to me. I got it hanging on my wall in my house right now. It says, to Alan, kayfabe Hulk Hogan. And I still got that to this day. And yeah, it sucks he died. He's got I guess a lot of ghost demons or whatever you'd say. A lot of people have a lot of negative things to say about him, but I can honestly say this. He was my, one of the, well, I don't want to say idol because Jesus is my only idol, but back then when you're a kid, when you look up to somebody, he was the guy for me. And for him to sign that shirt for me, and I still got it to this day. And the very first time I met him, he's with Nick, and he was very nice to me. Never was, mean to me at all. Every time I shook his hand and talked to him, he was very nice. So may he rest in peace. And yeah, it sucks.
We're going to hit you something called the Pharaoh's final question. Jimmy's going to pull off script question. I don't know what he's going to ask you. Jimmy, the Pharaoh's final question, sir, and then send us out if you don't mind. Alan, thanks you again for everything.
Yeah, I appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much.
You got it, my friend. All right. This one's just coming from a fan's perspective, so that's my disclaimer, okay?
Yes, sir.
Was there anybody back when you were in WCW that, you felt like, why are they getting a push? Now, forgive me when I say this, because I've learned tonight that you were good friends with Mike Sanders, for example. I was watching other guys, and yes, Helix Skipper was incredibly talented in the ring. I'm not blind, you know what I mean? These guys were fine with what they did. But I felt like you were an untapped thing. Your character was engaging without even saying a fucking word. You almost didn't even, and you always had the hot chick, like you said. This was like an Adrian Street potential situation, is what I'm getting at. All
Yeah,
right.
I appreciate
So,
that.
so was there anybody that you thought to yourself, why the hell is this one getting a push and I'm not? Sorry to put you on the spot, but that's what do you think?
That's a great question, man. Uh, Personally, no, that's just not my personality. I'm not jealous of people. I like to see people succeed. Uh, and especially if they're my buddies. Uh, so I never really felt that way. I mean, sometimes you might look and say, what can I do like this guy's doing? What is he doing? Does he know somebody different than me or this and that? But no, I never really got jealous of anybody. It's just not my nature. I like to see everybody get their piece of the pie and succeed. You know what I mean?
I hear you. Well, you lived the dream. You got to a place where only very few dare to fly, and you got there. So kudos to you,
Yes,
Kwee
sir. I
Wee. Thank you
appreciate
for
the
coming
kind
on,
words
man.
too, bro.
Appreciate you coming on. All right,
Yes,
guys,
sir.
stay tuned. I think we got a double shot. Like Mike said, we got Bull Buchanan coming up. You've been watching Monty and the Pharaoh with the immortal Kwee Wee. See you in a few. Later.
Thanks, buddy.
You got it.
Know what I wanted to talk to you about. I want to welcome our new sponsor, 500 Level. www, shouldn't be using that, 500level.com, where they sell all sports clothing and all this wonderful stuff. And support the Monty and the Pharaoh Show. Please use the code MP20, that's MP20, and get a luxurious 20% discount with 500 Level sports gear. And right now they're offering a holiday special with 10%. So that's a whole 30% off the garments. Jimmy, you just being part of their sponsorship, ordered yourself a nice little T-shirt.
Yeah, I'm acknowledging the great tribal chief. Yo, by the way,
I'm really surprised you went that route, dude. I got to be honest with you.
Oh, it's funny. As I was looking through, and by the way, they have a lot of great stuff for you folks out there. When you get to that site, there's a lot of good. Dude, I was tortured. You said to me, pick a shirt, and I'm like.
And by the way, it's just not wrestling, dude. It's all sports. Like, I was surprised you went wrestling. I was like, really, dude?
Well, I mean, after all, they've been kind enough to be our sponsor, and we're gonna have a partnership with them. Of course, I'm gonna do wrestling. It's a wrestling show. Sometimes it's a wrestling show, right, Mike?
Sometimes. And let's not reminder, MP20 for a luxurious 20% off of 500 Level. And like I said, for the holiday, they're offering another 10%.
What do you think I was going to pick? Like Aaron Judge or something? I don't really.
Dude, I know. I was thinking to myself, is he going to go Yankees or Jets? And if he goes wrestling, he's not going Rome. Like, I was shocked. I thought you would go Hulk Hogan, Savage, Ultimate Warrior, even.
No, because right now, the very thing that you and I talk about from week to week and we pine for is the return of the great tribal chief. Look, we really did enjoy that. Yeah, we really did love that reign.
By the way, I got to show you something here. Do you see this? I got this T-shirt.
Look at that. There you go.
It's really cheesily made, but I fucking
love
it.
It's the message that counts.
By the way, I got to ask